Christmas is a good time for brass bands, with plenty of bookings throughout the month of December. It's an opportune time to boost the band's dwindling year-end bank balance. As Christmas draws even closer, some bandsmen will gladly accept the odd tipple generously offered by those members of the public who have joined the band in its street carolling activities, or even on those occasions when the band members were invited into the local hostelry, and yes, bandsmen have been known never to turn down a wee dram of the Christmas spirit from a welcoming landlord. Older bandsmen who may have retired from playing often reflect back to their own street carolling days, back to when they were young bandsmen taking their first tentative steps into the world of brass banding. Ah yes, days that conjure up so many happy memories, and often a few good tales to tell as well. Gordon Higginbottom, one of the best tenor horn players of his generation and a real character, can look back with fond memories to his street carolling days of, well, over 60 years ago. The days as a young 10 going on 11-year-old, street carolling in and around his community of Kersley, which these days is just a small part of the metropolitan district of Bolton in Greater Manchester. Gordon's first band was Kersley St Stephen's, which was renamed in 1947 when his dad was appointed the band's conductor. Every year Gordon was out carolling, and it followed an all too familiar routine of playing around the streets. Mum was a collector and Dad was playing, or sometimes conducting, and he was even known to do both at the same time. The very special carolling memories involved the band going round all the pubs and clubs in the district, which meant going out at night. That was a special treat for the youngsters. The band didn't just walk into the pubs, the playing had to start outside to begin with. The band was under strict instructions from Dad. Make sure you play the first carol double 40. That was just to make sure the landlord or steward knew the band had arrived. Then the oldest collector would go in to get permission for the band to play inside. The older members of the band always managed to manoeuvre themselves to be standing in front of the roaring open fire. Once inside, the band's treasurer knew we had hit the jackpot. As tough as the times were all those years ago, the revellers would always find a few shillings for the band. The best days for carolling were on Christmas and New Year mornings. The band would be up bright and early. Not much time for young Gordon to open his Christmas presents. The band would walk almost a mile along the main A666 highway, playing outside houses, on the way to the next pub. The highlight of Christmas morning carolling was when the band arrived at the Labour Club, where there was always a right royal welcome, with a choice of turkey, pork or beef sandwiches, with dishes of pickles on every table. It was always a long day. It was well into the afternoon before we got back home for our dinner, Gordon said. Gordon recalls the band's visit to Burdett Thand pub. After a round of carols, the landlord asked him to play a solo, unaccompanied. Dad gave him the cornet part for Silent Night to play. At this time, Gordon had a long way to go before he was to become the star player of the future. To use Gordon's words, I made a bit of a mess of it and ran home crying. And to this day he has not forgotten what was his first solo performance. Little did he know that in years to come, this shy, embarrassed young horn player would one day be standing in front of thousands, dressed as a bee, and still manage to keep his all too familiar deadpan face and place every note just where they should be. By the time Gordon was 13, he had joined a different class of banding with the Besser's Boys Band. This band played carols in all the posh houses and ended up in the golf club. A little bit different from the Labour Club, but some things didn't change. The band members would all consume countless mince pies, the glasses of sherry, endless cups of red rum-laced coffee, and more than the odd tipple. He knew he was 1 over the 8 and dare not go home in that condition, so he spent a couple of hours, including being sick, in a cubicle at Whitefield bus station, until he felt it was safe to go home and face his mother. Now, having played in some of the best concert halls in the world, including the world-famous Royal Albert Hall in London, Gordon has to pinch himself just now and again to think brass banding has taken him a long way from sitting it out for 2 hours in a Whitefield bus station.